Growing up, my sister and I, we used to listen to music all the time. Now, growing up, we only had one radio that could play these cassettes and then ultimately CDs. So my sister and I had to alternate between her listening to her music and me listening to my music. And it was this constant back and forth. And one of the things that I still remember about my sister, who's 1 year older than me, is that whenever a song she really liked came on, she would say, "That's my song." And then she would sing it. And I would try to put the volume up louder and louder because I would tell her, "Listen, I want to listen to them singing it, not to you." But every time her favorite songs would come on, she would say, "That's my song." Whether we were at home or we were driving in the car or it came out on the television, that's my song. Music is powerful to us as human beings. It's not just always the words or the melody or the rhythm, but it's everything put together that then some of these songs are etched into our memory, are etched into our heart. And sometimes you can hear a song and it'll bring back the memories of something, sometimes good, other times bad. But songs and music have this power to make us feel a certain kind of way. In some ways, we all have songs that become soundtracks for our lives. The songs we keep coming back to. I know for me on my phone, I have a playlist with songs from the 90s, songs when I was growing up, when I was in high school, and those are the songs that I come back to because those are the coming of age songs that we all have. But it's not just music that become soundtracks of our lives. Our thoughts that we constantly think about ourselves. The more we think a thought, the more we believe it, the more it becomes ingrained in us. And we have these soundtracks, and some of the soundtracks in our minds are negative. Some of the things that you say when you look in the mirror, or when you put on or try on that new clothes, or after you've had an argument with your husband or your wife, or if you didn't get that promotion that you wanted, or your marriage is struggling, or you keep getting every red light on the way to your destination. We all have these constant soundtracks that are playing in our minds. Well, I'm never going to be rich enough. I'm never going to afford that thing. I'm always going to be overweight. I'm never going to be good at this or that. And we're constantly, without even knowing it, saying those things to ourselves. But God doesn't want us to live with these negative soundtracks playing in our minds day in and day out. So there's this really great passage in Psalm chapter 40, and I want to read the first 3 verses, and I want to show you how for God, He wants you to have good soundtracks, good recurring thoughts about yourself, about your life, and about your situation. Psalm 40 verse 1 begins, "I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit. Out of the mud and mire, He set my feet on a rock, and He gave me a firm place to stand. He put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God." I love this imagery. It says that God rescued me from the slimy pit. God rescued me from the mire. God rescued me from difficult circumstances in my life. And then David says, "And He put a new song in my mouth." God doesn't want you to live with these negative, limiting belief, negative soundtracks, but God wants to put a new soundtrack in your heart. And it comes often out of moments of struggle. The songs of praise, these songs of goodness, the song of viewing yourself in a positive light often come after difficulty. That's why the psalm says, out of a slimy pit, out of the mud, out of the mire, out of the difficulty, out of the obstacle, God puts a new song in my mouth. You know, just the other day, we had a mobile food pantry at our church, and we serve around anywhere between 170 to 200 families every other week. And on this one particular day, there was a lady that came. She drove up in her car and she was crying. She said, "I just came into this area. I don't know what I'm gonna do." She'd been experiencing some really challenging times in her lives. And she said, "And then I drove by here and I saw that you were having this food pantry, and I stopped because I needed food for myself, for my family." She was crying, grateful That in her mud, in her mire, God was answering her question. God was answering her prayers. She was so touched by being able to find this food and find us here that she pulled off to the side after she got her food. She came and she talked to some of the ladies that were here that were helping with the food pantry. She asked, "Can you pray with me?" And she was so moved by the fact that we were able to help that she came back and she gave this lady here at our church that has been in charge of this and took the time to pray with her and care for her. This little angel that was given to her by her mom. There's a little gold angel with a little jewel in there. She says, "I want you to have this because you are like an angel to me at this time." God put a new song in her heart, knowing that God is looking out for her. What is the new song that God is wanting you to sing? What are the soundtracks? What are those beliefs about yourself that are no longer serving you that God says, I want you to just lay those aside. I want you to put those down. Those soundtracks are not serving you anymore. What is the new song that God is putting in your heart today? I want to encourage you that if you don't know what that is, simply pause and ask God, "God, teach me the new song that you have for me. God, teach me to see the world the way you see the world. God, teach me to see myself the way you see me. God, help me to see the goodness and the abundance of your love today." So I want to encourage you, keep singing that new song that God is placing in you today. God bless you.